Hello again, friends. Welcome to more fairy tales. This is The Frog Prince, or Iron Henry, and we're reading it by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, also probably known as the Brothers Grimm, or Grimm Brothers. It's illustrated by Bennett Schroeder and translated by Naomi Lewis, meaning it was originally done in another language, and the Grimm fairy tales are pretty famous. This is The Frog Prince. Maybe some of you are aware of a little bit of this story from, it was The Princess and the Frog. Disney has a movie that's the Princess Tiana in it, and it's a different version of it, but you might want to check it out if you have Disney at home, if you can see a movie somewhere. Maybe you have the video or DVD. All right, so The Frog Prince. Here's our title page, The Frog Prince, or Iron Henry, by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, illustrated by Bennett Schroeder, translated by Naomi Lewis. Once in olden times, when wishes still had power, there lived a king. All of his daughters were beautiful, but the youngest was the loveliest of all. The sun itself, which sees so much, was dazzled when its light shone on her face. Close to the king's castle was a great forest. In that forest, under an ancient lime tree, was a well. On hot summer days, the king's youngest daughter would wander into the forest and sit down on the edge of the cool well. Then, to pass the time, she would play with a golden ball, throwing it into the air and catching it again. She loved this toy. It was her special treasure. But one day she failed to catch the ball when it fell. It hit the ground, then bounced straight into the water. See her playing with it over here. The princess gazed down into the depths, but the ball had quite disappeared. The well was so dark and deep that you could not tell what lay under the surface. She began to cry. Her sobs grew louder and louder, filling the air with noise. She felt as if nothing could comfort her. Suddenly, she heard a voice. "Princess," it said, "whatever is the matter? Your howling could move the heart of a stone." Where did the voice come from? She looked around and saw a frog poking its ugly head out of the water. "So it was you speaking just now, old water splasher? Why am I crying? I'll tell you. My golden ball fell down the well, and I've lost it now forever." "I can help you," said the frog, "but what will you give me if I bring back your plaything?" "Whatever you want, dear frog," said the princess. "My finest clothes, my jewels, even my golden crown." "Oh, I don't want clothes and jewels, things of that kind," said the frog, "but I would like some love and affection. Now, if you promise to let me be your special friend and playmate, if you let me sit beside you at the dinner table, eat from your golden cup, and sleep in your little bed, if you promise me these small things, I will dive down and bring back your golden ball." "Yes, yes," said the princess. "I'll promise whatever you want if only you bring back my lovely ball." But she thought to herself, "That creature is talking nonsense. It's a frog. It lives in the water with frogs. How can it come to court and behave as if it were human?" The frog, though, only the promise. He nodded, then dived down into the well. After a while, he swam to the surface with the golden ball in his mouth and shook it out onto the grass. The princess was overjoyed to see her treasure again. She picked it up and rushed away. "Wait, wait!" cried the frog. "I can't run at that speed. Your legs are longer than mine." But his croaking calls were wasted. The princess raced on, reached the castle, and put the frog out of her mind. The poor fellow turned sadly and went back into the well. The next day, the princess sat down in her usual place at the royal dinner table. She was about to take a cherry from her golden plate when she heard a peculiar noise. Splosh, splosh, flop, flop, on the marble stairs. Something was crawling up step by step. That something reached the door and stopped It knocked. Thud, thud. It spoke in a croaking voice. "King's daughter," it said, "open the door." Fearfully, the princess went to the door and peered outside. There was the frog, patiently waiting. She shut the door and quickly went back to her place at the table. Oh, she was afraid. She sat quite still, but her heart beat fast, so fast that her father noticed. "Child," he said, "what is the matter? Is an ogre waiting outside to carry you off?" "No, no," she said, "it isn't an ogre, it's a nasty frog." "A frog? What does he want?" "Dear father, as I was playing by the well, my golden ball fell into the water. I was crying so hard that the frog offered to bring it back. Only he made me promise to let him be my playmate and sit next to me at the table. I never thought that he could leave the well and come to the palace. Now he is outside and wants to come in." At that moment, the knocking started again. Thud, 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 thud. And the listeners at the table heard these words. "There was a princess. Open the door. She made me a promise. I'll tell you more. A promise, that she must keep. I've come for food and drink and sleep. Princess, oh princess, you cannot hide. Your frog companion waits outside." "Daughter," said the king, "you made a promise. It must be kept. Go and open the door." Slowly the princess did as she was told. At once the frog hopped in and followed her footsteps to her chair. Then he called out, "Lift me up." "Do as he says," the king commanded, but as soon as she had put the frog on the chair, he leapt onto the table. "Move your golden plate nearer," he croaked, "and we can eat together." The princess moved the plate, but it was easy to see that she was none too happy. The frog enjoyed the dinner. But what about the princess? Every morsel stuck in the poor girl's throat. At last the frog finished his meal and spoke again. "I have eaten all I want," he said. "Now I am tired. Kindly carry me to your room. Put me in your silken bed and we can go to sleep." The king's daughter began to cry. She was really afraid of the frog, so cold to the touch, and now he wanted to sleep in her beautiful clean bed. But the king frowned and said sternly, "If someone has helped you in a time of need, you must not scorn him when this need has gone." What could she do? She picked up the frog between her finger and thumb, carried him upstairs, and put him in a corner. She waited a little while, then went to bed. But no sooner was her head on the pillow than she heard the frog creeping along the floor. "I am tired," he said. "I want to sleep comfortably just as you do." "Now pick me up or I shall tell your father." The princess was enraged, but she dared not refuse. She picked up the frog and then, with a rush of anger, threw him with all her might against the wall. As she did so, she cried out, "Now are you satisfied, you nasty creature?" Oh dear. That wasn't very nice. But even while he fell, an astonishing thing happened. The frog began to change his shape. He was a frog no longer, but a young and handsome prince, gazing at her with eyes that were both beautiful and kind. The king rejoiced at the news. He welcomed the prince as a husband for his dear daughter, and so the two were married. The prince had a strange tale to tell. A wicked witch had cast a spell on him, a spell that only the loveliest princess could break. Now he was free. "Tomorrow," he said, "we shall travel to my kingdom." Then they fell asleep. When the morning came, they were wakened by the sun. They saw that a carriage was waiting at the gates. It was drawn by 8 white horses with a white ostrich plumes on their heads and trappings of all gold. At the back stood a serving man with 3 iron bands around his heart. So great had been the man's grief when his master was bewitched that he had placed the 3 bands around him to keep his heart from breaking. "My faithful Henry," said the prince, and greeted him joyfully. And now the bride and bridegroom were ready to leave for the young man's own kingdom. Faithful Henry lifted each one into the carriage, then took his place behind them. After they had driven a short distance, a sharp crack was heard. Startled, the bridegroom spoke. "Henry, Henry, what's the sound? Is the carriage breaking?" "No, sire, 'tis a ring that bound my heart when it was aching. But now my lord is freed and back, joy has made the iron crack." Then a second time they heard a crack, and a third time after that. Each time the prince feared that the carriage was breaking, but no, the sound came from the last of the bands freeing faithful Henry's heart. Grief forged the bonds at first, grief for his lord a curse, joy made the bonds to burst. And that's the end. All right, so in this version, there was no kiss. Some versions you've heard the princess kisses the frog. I do not have that book, but I will look on YouTube and see if I can find one that will tell you this a slightly different version than the one by the brothers. All right, stay tuned for that. And I'll have another one a little bit later called The Frog Prince Continued, what happens after.